Now, if you thought that your beloved toddler's macaroni art was the worst thing to ever be absorbed by your brain's visual cortex, then you haven't yet been introduced to the VFriends NFT collection.
I almost lost it when you said to put it on the fridge.
I know. I mean, what the hell is it supposed to be? A pelican or a school bus? What a dumbass. Hey, let's spit on it.
Hi everyone, Sean here, and welcome back to... Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, to the second episode of our three-part mini-series on non-fungible tokens. In episode 1, which you can find linked in the description below, we made some pretty harrowing revelations about NFTs, describing just exactly what they are, but more importantly, debunking what NFTs are not. And who'd have thunk it?
What's the matter with you? I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
It turns out that what you're actually buying when you get your hands on a coveted Bored Ape is not the original file of the image itself, as so many naturally suspected, but a snippet of code stored somewhere on the blockchain that simply states that your crypto wallet address is the owner of the image, not at all unlike the ownership deed to a home being a separate entity from the home itself. But with that foundational context in hand, we now move on to the ugly side of the NFT world. And what makes it so ugly, you might ask? Well, if you're a denizen of the internet like ourselves, then you've probably seen some let's just say dubious NFT projects launched in the recent past. No, ladies and germs, this isn't about those savvy, not so savvy digital fraudsters. This is about the gray area of the NFT market, the no man's land that sits somewhere between legitimate and verified investment opportunity, and probably illegal Ponzi dumpster fire. Now, the 5-letter C word that has kept us all indoors for the last couple of years has certainly distorted the perception of time for a lot of us, so it's important to remember that while it might feel like a century has passed, NFTs have only been with us for a very few short years. And like any other technological innovation that they've used to the markets, outside of the obvious attempts at fraud, you're always going to see a ton of half-baked schemes that claim they're going to the moon, but at the end of the day have little to no true intrinsic value. The creators and peddlers of these NFTs in many cases appear to be drinking their own Kool-Aid by the gallon. Many of them do in fact seem to really believe their crappy napkin sketch or shamelessly plagiarized clip art will one day eradicate world poverty, solve the hunger crisis, and turn everyone into a multi-billion-dollar digital collector. But as we've all come to learn, the NFT community's rosy marketing stories that are so often painted by brilliant advertisers.
Advertising is based on one thing: happiness.
More often than not, do not line up with the realities of society still dominated by, traditional economics. So hop on down that rabbit hole with us once more as we explore the ambiguous and often ugly gray areas of the NFT markets, and in the process, hopefully help outline for all of us some useful instructions on how to avoid the ugliest of the ugly.
I literally want to die instead of fail. Die. Death. Over. I do not know how to live in life. I do not know.
First and foremost, we'd like to turn to the internet business guru that everybody absolutely loves to hate. And for once, it's not Tai Lopez.
Here in my garage, knowledge.
We're talking about none other than...
I came in there like I never...
Gary V. Gary, oh Gary, just about everyone at our main business, as well as In the Black, including myself, have been longtime fans of your fiery rhetoric, motivating people of all ages to stop complaining about the hand they've been dealt, get up off their ass, and work hard to chase their dreams. But alas, Gary, we feel that the NFT markets, with their promise of easy profits and publicity for anyone with an already established platform, has coerced you over to the dark side of the force. or the dark side of the NFT markets in this case. Now, while savvy infants and presumably tech-forward adults are dipping their toes into the NFT pool by tokenizing the digital art that they put their blood, sweat, and sometimes years of elbow grease into, Gary has decided to do a sloppy backflip cannonball into that pool, deeply annoying many of the other swimmers in the process. And his launching point to do so? Friends. Now, if you thought that your beloved toddler's macaroni art was the worst thing to ever be absorbed by your brain's visual cortex,
I almost lost it when you said to put it on the fridge.
I know. I mean, what the hell is it supposed to be? A pelican or a school bus? What a dumbass. Hey, let's spit on it.
that you haven't yet been introduced to the VeeFriends NFT collection. As of this recording, 10,255 of these horrific hand-drawn animals, I guess one would call them.
Look at the top of his head.
Have been created by Gary, tokenized into NFTs on the OpenSea market platform, and bid up into tens of thousands of dollars by Gary's loyal audience. Now, despite each of these things being indeed very ugly, that's not actually the reason that we chose to categorize the VeeFriends in such a way. You see, we don't consider the VeeFriends to be downright bad, because unlike the blatant scams we've observed in the market so far, Gary has actually attributed some utility to each image in his NFT collection. With the purchase of a VeeFriend, the holder receives not only the NFT itself, which again, per episode 1, is not the actual original file of the art, but also 3 years worth of access to VeeCon, Gary's newly created business networking convention. With the publicly available data that we have at our disposal, we've come to learn that Gary Vee earned a whopping $90 million worth of net profit on VeeFriend's NFT project in just the first 3 months of its launch. Wild Wallaby? More like wealthy Wallaby, am I right?
Because I only believe in authenticity.
Gary has promised that most, if not all, of the proceeds from the sale of these questionable creatures will go towards funding the infrastructure, marketing, and guest lists of VeeCon so that he can fulfill his long-standing goal of throwing a business convention to end all business conventions. And with a star-studded speaker list featuring the likes of Snoop Dogg, Dwayne Rock, the Johnson, Dwayne Rock, the and with a star-studded speaker list featuring the likes of Snoop Dogg, Dwayne Rock, the Johnson. I know.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
And with a star-studded speaker list featuring the likes of Snoop Dogg, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and a large handful of A, B, and D-listers, VeeCon will require a monumental budget to pull off properly. Maybe not $90 million monumental, but monumental nonetheless. How was that? Was that weird? Oh, okay. And again, we have no problem with Gary selling these NFTs. After all, it's not Gary himself that continues to set the $40,000 to $50,000 market price for each VeeFriend. What really determines these egregious price levels, after all, are the participants of the open market that trade the VeeFriends among themselves, thus increasing the value of the NFTs with each new increasingly expensive trade. So then what's our problem with Gary Vee, huh? No, we're not just jealous of Gary's mad artistic skills, yo. Our problem with Gary lies in one core area, the part of his VeeFriends pitch that has nothing to do with VeeCon convention. Now, anyone that's familiar with Gary's long and quite frankly brilliant career will know that he cut his teeth in the world of wine marketing before going on to start his very successful digital advertising firm, VaynerMedia. And what is the #1 litmus test to determine whether a marketer is worth their salt? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. The marketer should be able to take a turd, polish it up real good, and sell it for 100 times the price. And through VeeFriends, Gary has proven that he is, in fact, one of the best marketers alive, because his spin on what a VeeFriend really is truly one for the history books.
I also know that I'm gonna make Empathy Elephant and Patient Pig and, Entrepreneur Elf literally commercial successes. I believe that NFT's destiny is definitely to groom and to spring up 3 to 5 meaningful intellectual properties, and I have substantial ambition for VeeFriends to be one of them. I'm going to build Disney over the next 40 years.
A cash grab.
But in this case, optimistic is not nearly powerful enough a word to describe how Gary claims to feel about his little abominations. Being perfectly candid, we think it's pretty disingenuous to take something like this, or this, or this, and say that it has the potential to be the next Scooby-Doo or Powerpuff Girls. Knowing that a large chunk of Gary's audience consists of kids and teenagers, it's not at all unlikely that less than knowledgeable young fans saw this project as a legitimate investment opportunity in the new blockchain-based economy, especially given Gary's liberal use of financial terms.
You buy the token, and that gets you into, but it's your asset, digital assets. You can literally raise $1 million on your horseshit idea.
We just hope that no faithful youngster lost their proverbial shirt by funneling their long collected piggy bank fund into one of these bizarre overmarketed creatures. I mean, for the love of God, Gary, we love you and all your wild garage sale musings.
Garage sales? Garage snails. Everybody's too fucking slow these days. God damn it. You know, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna rip his fucking face off. Not physically, but financially, okay? I'm about gratitude, longitude, and latitude. How's it going, Gary?
But have you actually looked at any of the V-friends after you drew them? Let's get real for a brief moment. There is absolutely no way that anything that looks like V-friends can possibly have a happy existence on this earth, much less become the next billion-dollar character-centered entertainment franchise in our view. So to all you aspiring NFT creators out there, we have only one core piece of advice for you. Just call a spade a spade. As we always like to say, not everything that claims to be an asset really is an asset. So the next time someone tries to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge or an amateur hand-drawn cartoon that claims to be the next Scooby-Doo, the first thing that should come to your mind is
Ruh-roh.
But fear not, everyone. If you missed your chance to piss away $50,000 on a V-friend, you can always turn to the dozens of other NFT projects that, while not outright fraudulent or illegal, are still highly likely to be a tremendous waste of your hard-earned money. That being said, our next culprit, believe it or not, really rocks. And I mean that literally, because this ridiculous NFT collection is nothing more than some lazy 2-day clip art of rocks. Ether rocks, or ETH rocks, as they are colloquially known, debuted in late 2017 as a relatively small collection to only 100 NFTs, a much smaller pile of crap than the 10,000 unit strong V-friends. The 100 NFT rocks in the collection are all identical in size and shape, but differ in color, presumably to showcase the holder's unique and individual personalities. Now, this collection is a very interesting case study because it teaches us one of the core most lessons inherent to investing in any area of finance. And that lesson is, just because you happen to generate a return on an investment and make some money does not mean you made the right investment decision. One of the most widespread, as well as one of the most dangerous misconceptions that new to market traders and investors often succumb to is thinking that just because a particular trade or strategy made money, then that must mean the strategy behind the trade was solid and should be continually replicated into the future. This could not be further from the truth. The early accidental successes of inexperienced traders in the stock market or crypto sphere in many cases seems to have given hundreds of thousands of people a false sense of the markets, making them seem far simpler and less multifaceted than they actually are. Looking at the ETHROX price chart since their debut in 2017, we can see that initially each NFT was sold for no more than 0.09 Ether, equivalent to about $300 US at the time. As of this recording, the prices associated with this silly collection have aggregated into hundreds of millions, with one of the more recent purchases being made for an astounding $500,000. But we say again, just because the ETHROX bubble hasn't burst yet doesn't mean that it will never burst. And when it does, well, we just hope that you're lucky enough to get in at the top of the pyramid and not in the middle or the bottom. Now, for those of you that find flatulence humor as entertaining as our good friends Beavis and Butthead do, then consider yourself in luck. Because in our wonderful modern times, you are now able to go online, log into the OpenSea NFT platform, and place your bid for a non-fungible token containing a fart. And yes, for those of you sickos wondering, they're human. How delightfully disgusting. So having donned our gas masks and protective gear, we dove into researching this very bizarre collection and learned that upon its first debut in early 2021, there was only one very long, very gross 52-minute video containing the two founders' flatulence recorded over the course of an entire year. Tell me when to come up. I mean, do we really have to make our case for why you shouldn't buy this? I mean, seriously? This 52-minute long abomination of an MP3 file went on to be broken up into its constituent components of individual rips, presumably to make it more accessible to a wider base of potential buyers, whoever those twisted oddballs may be. Now, the fact that almost every NFT in the collection has seen at least a few percentage points of price appreciation since its debut in 2021, as we previously mentioned, should not be the reason that you allocate any capital to this auditory disaster. Because while the laws of physics dictate that hot air does in fact rise, the laws of finance, common sense, and basic human decency will probably beg to differ soon enough. Now, while we'd love nothing more than to sit here and sift through hundreds of thousands of ugly NFTs that exist out in the world, we still have to move on from the ugly to the bad, which will be our next and final episode to top off this NFT miniseries. So stay tuned for that next episode, everyone, where we cover the worst of the worst in the NFT space, the scammers and fraudsters and snake oil salesmen that are taking advantage of the as of yet unregulated crypto markets to swindle their way to riches. With that said, we hope to see you all next time on In the Black.